So have I. So we
I'll
both.
flow with it. We're live.
Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Battle Lines. I am your host, RC3, and with me, as always, my beautiful co-host.
Hi, this is Cody Cag.
How's it going, Mara?
It's going well, going very well.
Do you prefer Myra or do you prefer Cody?
Cody.
Cody. So let's call you Cody from now on, okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So how's your week? We hadn't gone on for a couple of weeks, so
Well, it was just last week. It was 4th of July weekend. I figured everybody was busy, the festivities, everything. I mean, 4th of July, I don't know for you, but that's one of my biggest holidays, one of my favorite holidays. So we always get together with family. I was preparing for the run the next day, just last minute, what do you call it? Errands
right.
before Monday.
It's
So
always
yeah, it
it's
was
always
good.
really busy. I was on vacation all last week, so um and even then I feel like, man, time just was slipping. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm a dad, so I got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So it's like you never have any moment of rest. And so I'm glad we can move the show to 6 o'clock now because it could be it could be a struggle to get
Yeah,
up.
well, you see, I'm more awake now. When we were pre-recording the show, I had to be. I normally wake up at 4:30 every day. So on Sundays, I tend to at least sleep till 7:30. Before I start getting ready for church. So I
Right.
had to be waking up at 6:30 to be ready for the show, and that's kind of like dragging myself to get ready. So I was still kind of trying to wake up.
Plus, it gives you more time to prepare, and even then, we're still not prepared. So, was that
That's always me.
so? What's that say about us? All right, there's been a lot of things in the news in the last couple of weeks. But before we get started with any type of hard news, I want to know what you think about a poll that I saw, and it came out on or right after the 4th of July, where it basically said that for the first time, uh, Americans were feeling less proud of their country than they've ever felt before, and the younger that you were in this poll, the more discontent you felt with the country. Of course, the older you got, the more. I mean, the more you felt content with the country, but the numbers were still
Mhm.
lower than they've ever been in history in every category. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What you attribute that to?
I, I s-
Um,
I saw the poll, what you sent me. I didn't go into the article. I'm not gonna lie, but I see that the morale of the country has been down. The change in presidency, everything that has happened from the inflation, the gas prices going up, and how we've been sending our debt has been increasing, and we're not doing as much for our country as we used to do, like the military, protecting our borders. Who's in the White House also affects that. I remember 4th of July, uh, the year before last, even in during COVID, it was more celebrated, more patriotic. Um, I don't feel less patriotic because that's all. I'm always going to be patriotic. I owe a lot to this country, but my morale is down. I'm still proud to be an American. I'm always going to be happy to be an American, but I do feel right now that our country is not doing what it should do for its people, for the American people.
right. There's a couple of things that you said there that I want to touch on. I don't think it's so much, and I want to speak for my age group, the 18 to 36, because that was actually one age group that felt the lowest or the most discontent, I should say, with the country. So I want to speak to that. But first, I don't think it's so much the changing of the presidency, because I mean, every 4 years, or possibly every 8 years, we have a changing of presidency, and you kind of always go from Democrat to Republican to Democrat, and that's kind of the way it's been. And that's always been, but you've never had this amount of discontent with the country, like I said, especially with the younger people. The younger people in this country, the majority of them voted for Biden, right? So this just doesn't shake out that and they're the ones that are the most discontented. So it just doesn't shake out that they got the guy who they wanted, but they're the most discontented. But I think, and this is just my opinion, that, and I should first say that, I mean, I love my country like you. I owe a debt of gratitude to to the system that to the system that is the country, that that holds the ideals of our founding fathers, the freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, and everything in between, the Bill of Rights. That is unique to this country, and that is something that to me is special and that should be celebrated, no matter what generation that you're in, because those principles don't change over time. Where I think where the discontent is coming from is the fact that our government just hasn't delivered for, and I would say, you could probably put it before, but I would say since 9/11. Just look
Mhm.
at what's happened since 9/11. You had the 9/11 attacks. We got into Iraq. No, we got into Afghanistan. Then we got into Iraq, right? And we were in those wars for over 20 years.
Yes.
Then we had the financial collapse in 2007, right? And then you had a bullshit gig economy that rose after the financial collapse. Student debt was skyrocketing through the roof over this point, on a promise that if you got a college education and you got your degree, that you'd be able uh, to earn the American dream, or at least see the American dream, to live the American dream. And that hasn't happened for a lot of people. And then you got, Trump elected, then you got COVID, and it seems like it's been one body blow after another to, I mean, not just to my generation, but to everybody, right? But I say specifically my generation, because you used to be able to raise a family with one income, and you used to be able to have a decent four-bedroom house on one income, because the economy was structured differently, wages were different, labor unions were stronger, and you can't do that anymore. It's a
And
different economy. It's a different economy, and that's why I think this generation is more discontented with the country today.
I do see what you're saying because I'm older than you. I'm 45, so I don't fit in your in your age group.
And
But I
you look amazing for 45, by the way.
thank you. But I see I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, and it was a different type of patriotic feel. You felt it everywhere you went. I mean, when I came into this country, and I mean, I was 3 years old and I still remember things. I still have memories. I mean, we learned English by MTV and, the TV, different things. And everybody seems so patriotic and so happy to be an American. When I came here, and the older I get, the more I see, hi,
Say hi. Say hi.
it- hi, and I think that I am still grateful because I still believe, and we still do believe in, we live in the greatest country. Like you said, we have the freedom of speech, not as much anymore because a lot of people are being silenced. We still have some freedoms that a lot of people take for granted. And that's one thing that I do see in the younger generations, and in a lot of people, that they take a lot of the things that we have here for granted, and they want to have more of the socialist type of government. And that's not the American way. But yes, I do see the economy has gone worse, where you used to be able to raise a family, like you say, with a one income. Now both mom and dad have to work, and when you're a single parent like you are and I am, it's even harder. I'm making, I want to say, about 20,000 more than I did 2 years ago. And I'm not making it. I don't feel it because of everything that is going on, all the prices that have been that have been increasing, it affects our everyday living. So I do see, I am not less patriotic, but I am more concerned. It wasn't, it wasn't has happy celebrated as it was before. I mean, to me, like I said, Fourth of July is always going to be a big holiday, a big
Right.
celebration, but I do feel the burden of the economy on me, and it's hard to see that, and it's hard to celebrate and live a carefree, type of life when you see that, especially when you see the difference of how much you were making and how much you're making more, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling
Right.
it. I'm not seeing you. I don't see you. Raleigh. Oh, I think okay. We lost him there for a while. So that was Fourth of July. Like that poll said, I don't believe that a lot of people, or maybe they're not less patriotic. It's just a burden. I do believe that the government and the current administration has a lot to do with it. And there you are again. Hi, can
All
you hear
right.
me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, give me 1 second here because my son on his way out,
You tripped over.
he tripped over he tripped over my wire, and I even connected a different camera.
Mhm.
So give me.
Okay. So he's gonna come back in. We're just gonna wait for a little bit. But yeah, I see that a lot, and I do see it in a lot of different people, how they were feeling in the morale in the stores.
Okay.
It's pretty hard nowadays.
Okay. So you can hear me.
I can hear you.
And it sounds clear.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess okay. We're back. Um where were we?
The
4th of July.
discontent.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. The economy, I'm sure, has a lot to do with the way people are feeling. Inflation, gas prices. Now, I saw a couple of reports that gas prices are on the decline, and that they're going back down, and that inflation is cooling. So let me ask you this: if in 6 months' time, or if before November, before the midterms, the gas goes back down to a reasonable price, and inflation is starting to show signs of slowing down, do you think that changes what the outlook is? I know everybody's expecting a red wave right now. Do you think that changes a lot? Because a lot of the arguments that Republicans are making is that, vote for us because inflation, gas prices is just directly Biden's fault. I think it's more complicated than that. I don't agree with that. I think there are lot of other factors that are the reasons why these things are happening. But what if everything starts to get under control by that time?
I do believe, like you, there's more to it. I do believe that they control it. We're coming close to November, and that is one of the biggest topics that the Republicans hold against the Democrats. You don't want to pay higher gases. You don't want to pay. Look at the economy the way it is. So we are, the conservatives, the Republicans are writing their elections on that. So that is one of the reasons why the gas prices are going down, to make everything seem better. I don't think it's going to last very long. The gas prices going down. Uh, Everybody that paid more at the pump is still suffering for that amount that they paid, because we don't get that income back. I mean, I spend a lot of money on gas, and that's because I work from home. Um, but I do think that there's going to be an effect. I mean, everything that is being worked on, everything that is done, is to affect the elections. The same thing as what happened with COVID. The 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 mail-in ballots, the drop boxes, everything that is done, I believe, is to affect an election year. All of
Well,
that plays into the election year.
just keep in mind that Trump could have also have utilized the mail-in ballots, and he chose not to. I think that was just a stupid strategic move. Had he had chosen to not only utilize the mail-in ballots and encourage his voters to use mail-in ballots, I think he might have been able to win the election. But I guess that's another topic. Um, so my battle line today is going to touch on that. Have you prepared your battle line for today? No.
I'll fly. I'll play. Like I
Okay.
like to improvise.
My battle line is going to touch on the certain strains right now in the Republican Party. So I consider myself, there's a term for us. We're definitely it feels like we're a minority in the Republican Party, but we're what are we're referred to as barstool Republicans. And we what that means is we don't really care about social issues. We don't really care about the culture war. I don't care about the culture war. If I can sum down what my politics is really simple. Just organize our politics to make people's lives economically better. It's very simple. It's all about economics.
Hmm.
That's basically what it is. I don't care. And socially, I'm all about liberty and freedom. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't care who you do it with. I don't care where you want it. I don't care um, what God you worship. I don't care what church you want to go to. I don't care what time you want to pray. I don't. None of that stuff matters. That is between you and your private life and your God, and then it's none of my business.
Like you and I, we do disagree, but we agree in a lot of things. I don't consider myself. I did for a very long time consider myself a Republican, and it's hard for me to say, I'm not a Republican because I am involved in some Republican groups, but that's a party that I can relate more to. But the Republican Party doesn't own me. I'm a free thinker. I can decide what I know how to hold people accountable. I don't think the Republican Party fully represents me in the sense that they're not taking the issues from the people into Congress or doing anything really to help us. I see the Republican Party, the majority of it, like a self-serving party, what I've seen. And it's more to push themselves and to make more money for the Republican Party. I do believe, I mean, I am a conservative. If you want to be gay, if you want to be whatever your lifestyle is, that is your business. I don't care what you do in your bedroom, but do not bring the children in.
So
That's
you're
what I'm against.
so you're a social libertarian. But what if the parents of the children want to talk about those things? So what about something like drag queen story time?
Uh-huh.
What if it's the parents themselves that are
No,
taking the
a lot
kid?
of them is the parents. A lot of the parents taking their children to this is the parents.
So
But what a lot of
but
parents,
isn't that the right?
yes and no, because a lot of this people, and if you, and there's even drag queens that have come out. A lot of the drag queens that are coming out, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, a big number of them are are sex offenders. They're what, they're pedophiles. And they're actually, supposed to be away from children.
Right,
They're already.
but Myra, but there's a lot of teachers. I mean, just look at your newspaper. There's a lot of
Mhm.
teachers that are pedophiles. There's a lot
Yeah,
of coaches that are pedophiles.
there is.
I mean,
There is.
I don't think it's fair to single out anybody because the issue
But
of being a pedophile, like, I mean, to find out, later that somebody's teacher was a pedophile and you
and
knew that you were leaving your child with that
yes, but
teacher.
that is also, it's wrong on the school and it's wrong. The pedophiles are not supposed to be near the children. When I remember when I was looking for a house, when I was gonna buy a house, I looked to live within distance from a school because pedophiles are not supposed to be nearby a school. They're not supposed to be, it's a, keep your lights out on Halloween. They're not supposed to be teaching. They're not supposed to be in the classroom. There are things that they're not allowed to do. They're not supposed to be near the children. So I mean, yeah, that is on the school for not checking the records. And
Right.
sometimes we don't know because they don't have a record. But when you know that they are pedophiles and registered sex offenders, and you have them in front of children, or you're a parent willing to take this, and your child in front of a pedophile, that is child endangerment.
No, yes, that's true. If there
That
are
is child
cases,
endangerment.
right, if there are cases where a school is knowingly
Hmm.
exposing children to a known registered sex offender, then we don't have an argument here. I mean, I don't. I mean, obviously, the people should be held to account for that.
with
right? I mean,
even the parents taking the children willingly to a sex offender.
well, I mean, again,
It's
if it's
child
right,
endangerment.
a known registered sex offender,
Hmm.
yes, I'm not talking about those cases. What I'm talking about is if a parent, like, I mean, see, that's the thing about living in a country where people are free to do things that you don't like or that you don't approve of.
Yes.
That is what freedom is, right? Like freedom, calling Kaepernick kneeling on, kneeling for the national anthem. I don't like it,
Hmm.
but I don't want him thrown in prison.
Oh, you don't get thrown in prison by
I don't
that.
want him
I
fired
mean,
for
but
that.
you can
I don't want him
you
canceled for that. I
you
mean, I
can't
mean,
stop watching a game because that is your right. If you
oh
don't
yeah, yeah,
want to
yeah.
see that, that's your right, and that's the
Right,
way I see it.
right.
I choose.
I don't disagree with you. But when President Trump came out and said, "Fire the son of a bitch,"
Hmm.
I mean, that's cancel culture, bro. I mean, that's you're engaging in the thing that you accuse the other side of doing. And it's all about things I like and things I don't like. So when the shoe is on the other foot,
Yeah, it's and I agree with you because it's like one of the things that we would always say when we would go rally for freedom of speech, when we used to go to this protest or whatever, I would fight, and I've told you this, I fight for
right,
my freedom of speech just as much as I do for the Democrats and the left, because even though I don't agree with them, I do believe they have the right to speak.
right,
Everybody does. You have the right to express yourself. But when we go back to the drag queen story hour, if you look at the books, if you look at the way they're dressed in front of children, or or you take these children into a strip club when you don't, to see a drag queen, dance like a regular.
now we lost Myra. So it looks like now we lost Myra. So I mean, again, this issue about, at least in my opinion, this issue about drag queens is one where we largely agree on.
Okay, I don't know what
Okay.
happened. Yeah, I
Okay.
think I hit my hand on the mouse and I got out.
You're getting that fired up, huh?
It's just that like I say, what you do in your bedroom, what you want to do, whatever, it's your life. But when you have children involved, that's when these children really don't have a choice. They don't. You're making that choice for them. And
Right.
that's just usually where.
Yeah. I mean, we don't disagree largely on this issue. I mean, to be honest, I don't even think schools should be having drag queen story hour. Um, I,
That
I,
is
I,
up to, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
whatever's.
I don't know how that got started. But it's there. It's weird that it's there, and if parents don't mind it, and if there's no sex offenders, unfortunately, that's the kind of country that we live in, and uh, that's the ugly taste of freedom. Sometimes when people do things that I don't approve of or I don't like, I'm not going to go clamor for their children to be taken away from them, or for them to be arrested. That's just, for me, it's simple. For me, socially, it's all about freedom, liberty. You
Mhm.
know, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anybody, and as long as you're not hurting me. Now, you could make the case that you're hurting the children, but um, so yeah.
In
So
that case, yes, you can't make the case that you're hurting the children.
how do we get sidetracked with Drag Street? What were we talking about before?
We were talking about our issues. I was talking about how I am a Republican, a conservative, but this
Okay,
is, um, so yeah, I mean, am I a Republican? I can't fully say I'm a Republican. That's a party. We're in a two-party system. So, you either vote Republican or you vote Democrat, or we are now getting more people that are running on the independent ticket. We are.
yeah.
So that's
Hope
something that we need to support.
Well, I mean, hopefully there will be a day where you'll have a viable third party. Um, I don't see that. I don't see that happening within the next 10 years, though.
No, not with the money it's too much of a money maker for these
Yeah,
parties.
and it's
That's
all
the
and
biggest thing.
and it is all about money.
It is. I
Uh, uh,
mean, we saw this in this last election on your district. It's all about the money.
right, but that's gonna be there's gonna be a great equalizer in November, and it's gonna be even, and we'll see. May the best person win.
Yeah, and they best represent their community. That's all that I ask. I mean, if they can represent and take the voice of their community to DC and not their own, not their party voice.
Yeah. Um. I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk about my battle line. Okay. And I can have you respond to this. It's going to touch upon a lot of the topics that we just talked about, but it's okay to go over it again. So what I want to talk about in my battle line is about barstool Republicans like myself who are getting who we feel like we're getting left behind by the fanatics within the party. So I mean, so what do I classify myself as? Well, what do I and others who are in my position believe in? I mean, to me, it's very simple. Like I told you, Myra, earlier, like I want to organize our politics and our economy to make everybody's life better. It's the economy stupid. We've been called barstool Republicans. What do barstool Republicans care about? Put simply, again, fair economics and social liberty. That's why we voted for Trump in 2016. And I did vote for Trump in 2016. A lot of people now are kind of like, "Man, you voted for Trump? You sound like you're a liberal." Um, but that's okay. So, social liberty means that as long as you aren't hurting anybody, I don't care how you live your life. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care in what position. I don't care what religion or lack of religion you follow. I don't care if you want to smoke weed, if you want to voluntarily kneel during the anthem or voluntarily pray before a game. I don't care. I might not agree with your decision, but it's your life. I don't give a damn about your religion. I don't give a damn that you think it's this is a Christian nation. You do you, boo. But don't use the force of government to force your bullshit on me. And I won't force mine on you. Deal? And I'll also make you another deal. I'll march side by side with you if your religious liberties are ever threatened. So, on abortion, we believe women should have the choice to terminate a pregnancy within a reasonable time frame. 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks sounds fair to me. It's absurd to believe that it is okay. uh I'm sorry, it's absurd to believe that a fetus at 10 to 12 weeks is a person with a soul. That's a religious belief, not a scientific one. But on the other hand, it's also morally absurd to think it's okay to kill a third trimester baby on a whim. So if you can't see the difference between a 10-week-old fetus and a 9-month-old baby, it's because you just don't want to. Worse yet, to think that an embryo after fertilization has the same value and worth as an adult living female, many whose life now hang in the balance after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, is not only scientifically illiterate, it's morally disgusting to me. To force a rape victim to have to carry a baby to term because maybe it's God's will and stuff is morally disgusting to us as Barstool Republicans. And worse yet, nobody fucking agrees with you. 13% of Americans want an all across abortion ban. 70% of Americans in aggregate polling thought Roe versus Wade should not have been overturned. Yet the Republican Party, along with Mike Pence, want a federal abortion ban. This is them using the force of government to force their religion on us. Since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, what was supposed to be a red wave in November is not looking that way anymore. In the last month alone, Democrats have now taken the lead in most generic polling. Republicans, the Democrats are a horrible party. All you have to do is not be more horrible than them. And you can't even do that. In short, a lot of issues that animate the base, the stuff that Fox News covers from morning to night, like CRT, Disney World, and all that other culture war bullshit, we don't fuck with because we could care less about that shit. That's called the residue of democracy, kind of like what we talked about earlier, Myra. The in when you have millions of people living in a democracy where they're free to do what they want, their people are going to do things that you don't agree with. That's just the fact of the matter. But it's the underlying issue that animates us, Barstool Republicans. The question, like, why do people drown themselves in hate news 24/7? For example, Why should somebody in Alabama care about whether Ron DeSantis shows Disney who's boss? Or why should somebody in Michigan feel like immigration in the South is affecting his life?
Mhm.
Or why should anybody care in general that Dr. Seuss is being pulled from some shelves? Who's going to sleep at night worried about Dr. Seuss books? Nobody. That's who. Yet our media, our conservative media, covers this shit incessantly. Why? Because we have become a fundamentally unhappy people. And unhappy people express themselves through cultural means. But why are we unhappy? And it's all about economics. It's all about economics. And it goes down to exactly what we talked about earlier about people being unhappy because their financial situation is unraveling, because they feel like the economy is rigged against them, because they feel like like people just can't get ahead in the modern American economy. Jobs being shipped overseas ever since NAFTA. Um, you had, we elected Barack Obama on a promise that he would make everything better. He ended up doing the same old thing, ended up being a horrible president. We elected Trump on the same promise. He ended up being a horseshit president. And now we got Biden, who isn't even alive. And it seems like everything that it seems like they're kicking a dead body. We're that dead body on the floor, and they're just kicking us while we're down. And that's why people are unhappy, and that's why they choose to uh, to translate that unhappiness in these cultural war battles. But I don't know if you had the opportunity to see in Arizona there was a gubernatorial debate. Did you watch that one?
No, I didn't get to see it.
It was a crazy show. It was crazy town. It's nothing. So you cannot run in this modern Republican Party if you don't believe in election conspiracies, if you don't believe in uh I would play the video for you, but even one candidate said, "Is this a spoof? I feel like this is an SNL skit." And the moderator was like, "No, this is real life." That's how bad it was. Okay? And so let's fast forward to November. There's a commentator. His name is Dave Portnoy, and he runs Barstool Sports. Well, he became famous because he actually coined the term Barstool conservative. Again, just conservatives who are basically pro-choice, but not not crazy pro-choice, but feel like there is a reasonable medium, and all they really care about is economics. They that's their bread and butter. Well, he got into a fight, into a Twitter spat with Dan Von Gino, and basically Dan Von Gino calls him a pussy because he's pro-choice, and then Dave Porno responds, and it became this ridiculous spat. But that is what I'm talking about, where you have the hard right kicking out the Barstool Republicans, right? But again, the big picture is when you look at the hard right, when you look at their views on things like abortion, they're in the extreme minority. And that is one of the reasons the overturning of Roe versus Wade, that's one of the reasons why establishment Republicans
But
did
what
not
Roe? Okay,
want
let
the
me.
Supreme
But what
Court
Roe
to
versus
overturn Roe
Wade?
versus Wade.
What Roe versus Wade does is gives it back to the states.
Right.
It
That's
gives it
under,
to the states, so the state decides on what to do on their abortion laws.
right. But again, but let's not pretend like we don't know what the states were going to do.
Well, I mean, that's why you get involved on your elections.
Yeah, exactly. But the argument here is that abortion was a right, just
It's not.
like just like the Supreme Court
Mm-hmm.
voted in 2014 that gay marriage was a right. So we're rolling back. So the Supreme Court is rolling back
Mm-hmm.
what they themselves established as rights. Now this case, the one overturning Roe was particularly interesting because the Dobbs case that came out of Louisiana, that was the reason why they were in the Supreme Court. They were fighting the
Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court in the first place. They could have addressed that case without overturning Roe. So they gave away the game. They gave away what they were trying to do. because they could have ruled on the Dobbs case without even mentioning Roe, but they chose to bring in Roe to overturn it on purpose. Why is that?
I I don't know why, but I think it should be on a state level. The Roe versus Wade, the abortion laws should be on a state level. We give so much power to the federal government when it should be the states in a lot of this laws and these decisions.
Right, because that's the supremacy clause of the Constitution. The government has the right to decide what rights human beings, American citizens have that the states cannot take away from you. That's a good thing.
Hmm.
That's a good thing. I mean, what if we left segregation back to the states? And the same argument you're making now
Well,
was made in the 50s and
that's a
60s.
I mean, we talk about human rights, and I mean, you and I disagree on this. I mean, to me, that the it's the embryo, the baby, it has a right. The child has a right to live. Um, we've talked about then. Okay, when you and I disagree on abortion, I am a pro-life and you are a pro-choice unto a certain level. And we
Right.
have said that the more you give them, the more they push. I mean, we've come to the, and you disagree with me on this, but we've come to the places in a lot of, in some states, in some crazy, leftists. I'm not saying it's all the left, where you still have a decision to kill the baby that's already born after
Right.
it's born. So this is how far they'll push.
But
The
it's
more we
insane.
try, the further
Right.
they push.
But
So
90% of abortions happen within the first trimester.
now there's a lot of them in the second trimester.
Well, 90. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that statistically 90% of abortions happen within the first trimester. But I mean, you would be against that.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, when especially when it's used as a birth control. A
Well, right.
lot of, and how many abortions have a lot of women have? A lot of women have had more than one abortion. That's already using abortion as a birth control.
I understand that, but I mean, to me, I mean, I really do think it's absurd to look at an embryo the same way, or to think it's the same thing as a 9 month old baby. I mean, these are two different things. I mean, to say that an embryo has a soul and is a person is ridiculous,
It's a
and
life.
and it's unscientific.
To me, it's a life.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of potential for life everywhere around you.
Hmm. We protect life in Mars, little bacteria. We protect, plants. We protect animals. I mean, why not protect the
I don't
this
know because
life,
we just shot nuclear weapons at the moon like 10 years ago, not giving a shit about life. I mean, it's
the moon?
like I'm not a pacifist, Myra. Like I'm not somebody that says there's no condition in which a human life cannot be terminated. I'm not like this whole like, oh, life is precious type of guy. That's just not me. Like I mean, there's circumstances in which in my opinion life can be terminated. When we decide to go to war, we already have predetermined that there's innocent lives that are already alive,
Mm-hmm.
like what we did
Yeah.
in Iraq and like what we did in Afghanistan. Children that our bombs killed, we already predetermined that there's going to be a loss of life. So I wish we just start pretending as a culture like we're so pro life, because it's just not the case.
Let's go now to the one of the things that you mentioned. Somebody up in Michigan worried about the border. That does affect them. It affects Michigan. It affects Montana. It affects anywhere in the states, the open borders, because they only stay here. Like when they come to the valley, when they cross over, they don't stay here for long. They get shipped up. They don't stay here. So yeah, somebody in Michigan is going to worry about our open border. Somebody in Michigan is going to start, putting their 2 cents in what they think about the border. I mean, we see it. You've seen it where people, I don't know if you've seen it, where they cross the border, they have the papers, they stay here at the Catholic Charities, they're given the orders. You see the airports full where they're getting shipped up in the States. So it's not only a border problem, it's not only a border issue, it's a
That's a fair
whole,
point.
it's a states.
That's
I
a fair
have a
point.
friend that called me from Montana who's she's a she's an angel family. Her brother was murdered by an illegal alien. I think it was in the 90s. He got killed with a paint roller stuck in between his brain, into his head, into his cranium. So now those two guys that killed him are out. They're out of prison in California, and they vowed to come after the family. and she's seeing people like illegal aliens get shipped to Montana and set in the Radisson there. So they're not only staying here, they're getting, everywhere.
Yeah.
So it is an issue. And yeah, and this two guys were set free, still illegal aliens and still living in California.
We see there's a large faction of the Republican Party, the Libertarians, that support illegal immigration because of the cheap labor.
Because of the
and,
cheap
and
labor. They're not helping.
because of the cheap labor. And if you were to agree with the premise that we have a labor shortage in the country, that Americans just aren't willing to work for low wages anymore, I
Hmm.
mean, isn't that a fair solution?
No, the illegal aliens coming in here to work.
Yes.
That's no. You're giving them. You're paying. That's even a form of slavery. You're paying them less. You're using these people for your advantage. To me, it's wrong. It's wrong, and it's. I think that the employers that hire illegal aliens should be prosecuted. They should be held
But
accountable.
nonetheless, it is better than the situation that they're coming from.
Then what? A lot of them,
Hmm.
some of them, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's better for them, but in a way, they're still used as as slavery because they're not being paid fairly for their work.
Yeah. Um, Listen, I got maybe about 4 more minutes because I don't know if you can hear, but I got my 3-year-old screaming off the top of his lungs in the other room, and he's driving me crazy just hearing him. Um, can't even concentrate, to be honest. Um,
Oh, I could beat you now.
so here, give me 1 second, okay? Give me 1 second. Just talk about how awesome I am.
Well, that's not happening, Rolly. Okay, so yeah, so I was telling you this story, and I just want to emphasize a little bit on it. I do have a friend who's very concerned right now. Her brother was murdered back in the 90s at the beach. He was in high school. Him and his friends went to a beach to hang out, with his friends, like regular kids do. When they were there was a group of illegal aliens, and they started attacking the teenagers. In one of the fights, the her brother got killed by a paint roller. So if you look it up, and I'll put this, this is a picture. I don't know if you can see it. That is a paint roller going through his skull. So the two illegal aliens that did this are now free, living in California, where they are living illegally. They had vowed to come after the families, and one of the girls that was there in the party, she actually committed suicide days or like years before, they were let free, because she was in so much fear that they were going to come after him. This is the young man that was killed. So when my friend here, Raleigh, says, why are they worried in Michigan? Because they don't stay only in the border. They stay, they get moved away. But these are the things that happen when we have open borders, or we make people think that it's so easy to come into our borders, which, we talked about the slavery, about people being paid under wages, but there's also little girls, there's children being used, recycled, raped, um, sold into sex slavery. And a lot of it is, I mean, it's very sad.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm back. Sorry
okay,
about that.
this is a picture that I was showing of my friend's brother.
Oh
That's a
man,
paint roll going through his screen.
that's horrible.
So yeah. So the two guys that did this are free, and they had vowed to come after the family.
What do you mean they're free?
They're free. They were left free from prison. They were set free. They were going through appeals, and during the appeals process, they would threaten the families. One of the girls that was a witness actually committed suicide some couple of years ago, because she was so afraid, because she knew they were going to come out. So under Gavin Newsom, the government over there in California, they were set free. They weren't deported back into Mexico. They're still living in California illegally.
What's the name of that? What's the name of that case?
The name of the case is a paint roller case pair. That's what it's called.
Say that one more time.
Paint roller case.
Paint roller case.
Yes, it was a 17-year-old. The young man was a 17-year-old, Mr.
And that's out of California.
Out of California. I'll go
Okay.
ahead and text you this. I'll text it
Okay.
to you.
I
And
wanna. Yeah, I want to do my research on that before I have any kind
mhm,
of comment on it, just so I can know what the fuck I'm talking about.
yeah, and I had asked Miss Shelley to come into the show at one point, but she's very exhausted with everything and very fearful of everything that's going on because her mom is still over there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hmm.
Um, I think we're gonna have to end it there, Myra. Um, I got the destroyers over here. Um, on my keeping me on my toes. So we went for about 45 minutes, going on 46. Is there any last words that you want to say?
No, just check us out next week. Uh, keep your spirits up. Stay patriotic. We need to. Our country needs us, so we need to keep fighting for our country the best way we can. Get out and vote. Get involved. If you don't have that candidate, become that candidate, or encourage a better candidate to run for office to represent your community. That's all I gotta say.
And on that note, I agree. What's up, buddy?